All right, welcome back to Magic to Your Ears. We are continuing talking about our trip to spring break, or my not our trip here, my family's trip. You get to go in September when other rides will be open that weren't open at all when we were there. I'm not
So this is
jealous.
our series, Tyler Tells All, and Chelsea is a little jealous.
And stay tuned for part 2 in 6 months, where Chelsea tells all, and I am jealous. One of the things that was different for us is the Skyliner was not in operation last time we went in 2019.
Same here.
So
I've never experienced Skyliner.
So you just barely missed it then.
Yes,
because
I mean they were
testing it.
trialing it. Yeah, they were testing it, and you could see it up in the air, but nobody was in it, obviously.
They were testing it the month before when we were there in 19.
Yeah, and right when they opened it, they had a little whoopsie where the Skyliner got stuck for what was it, like 4 hours?
One of them crashed and the other one,
Yes!
glass all over the landing area.
Yep.
We did not see any of that.
No,
No.
but it was big news, and I'm glad we surpassed that little timeline.
So going into it, I had all these questions of how does this work?
Mm-hmm.
And which is new to me because I usually go to Disney World and I'm like, people come up to me and I go all Ron Swanson when they ask if I want help. I tell them I know more than you.
Yeah, like, here, do you want to know? What do you want to know?
Yeah. So the Skyliner, though, was a completely new thing, and I wasn't for sure how it worked. How do you do rope drop? And so our first day was at Hollywood Studios at Disney. So I had to learn very quickly. We got to our resort Monday night
Okay.
and Monday afternoon, and we were going to studios on Tuesday morning.
Do you want to remind us of the resorts that carry the Skyliner
Yeah.
option?
So your two value resorts are Art of Animation and Pop Century, and they use the same station because they are very close connected. You can walk from one to the other. We did a couple of times this trip. And then the other ones are Riviera Resort and Caribbean Beach, which to me should be Caribbean Beach since it's Pirates of the Caribbean.
I
but
thought
it's
that as
Caribbean
well.
Beach.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Either way you want to say it, those are the other two. Those are a little bit more pricey. I think Riviera is the most expensive of those two. And we got to fly over Caribbean Beach, and it looks very nice. I worry about how far you have to walk from some of those little villas to get to the Skyliner station.
I've said that about moderate resorts. They're so huge that honestly, if you're using Caribbean Beach just to use the Skyliner option, I would stay at Pop or Arts of Animation just because you're probably better off, if you're not staying next to the Skyliner station in Caribbean Beach, you're probably better off just hopping on a bus because it's going to take an immense amount of time just to get to your Skyliner from where you are.
And so the way it works, if you're saying that they have 3 different stations for the Skyliner.
Okay.
One of them is there at Pop Century and Art of Animation. It's kind of the end of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And so you ride that over to the Caribbean Beach station, and you have to get off there.
Oh.
No matter what, you get off right there. And then there are additional 2 lines that go. One goes from there to Hollywood Studios, and the other one goes to Riviera and continues on to Epcot.
Okay.
So we stayed at Pop Century, so we got off there, and we had to go over to Hollywood Studios. And then that puts you out pretty close to, actually inside where the buses would even drop you off.
Okay.
If you go to Epcot, you get off there at the Caribbean Beach Station, and you will come to a stop at Riviera. Slow stop. It'll keep moving, kind of like the Doom buggies at Haunted Mansion. The doors will open, and if you're going to Epcot, you just stay put. And you might have a cast member say, are you getting off here? Are you going to Epcot? You say Epcot, they say just stay seated.
Okay.
And then you go to Epcot. And so total amount of time from Pop Century to Studios is the shortest distance.
Right.
So we were able to do that in about 11 minutes from the time we got on our gondola until the time we got off of it was right at 11 minutes to go to Studios.
No, that's not bad.
No. Epcot, though, was a little bit longer. We had about an 18-minute wait or total travel time to get to Epcot.
Okay.
And that may vary a little bit depending on length of lines.
Okay.
Because you might have to wait a little bit longer to get through the Epcot one or the Studios one. Just depends on what the most popular one is that day, I guess.
That makes sense.
And so the other big question I had was, when do I get in line? Because you want a rope drop, how early do I need to go there? And so I went to the concierge and I said, when do you recommend? And she goes, they don't open until 7 o'clock for the Skyliner.
Okay.
Like, all right, good to know. When do people start lining up? She goes, I've seen people line up as early as 30 to 45 minutes ahead of time. So I'm thinking 6:15.
So you got to rope drop the Skyliner.
Pretty early. Tuesday morning, we got up and left our room just a hair after 6 a.m.
Oh, okay.
And so we were pretty far out. We're in the 50s building,
Okay.
By the Hippy Dippy pool.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a pretty decent walk to get over there.
Mm-hmm.
We got to the Skyliner at 6:05, and we were not the first people in line. We were about 10 people back.
Oh, okay.
Like, total of 10 people, so a few
Wow.
families. Wasn't bad
So
at
they
all.
were already informed of this little tip
So
as well.
30 to 45 minutes was not even close.
Oh.
The second day that we did the Skyliner, by 6:20, they had to have someone get one of those into the line signs and go deep into Pop Century, probably halfway back to our room was how far.
My.
Because again, this services both resorts, Art of
Mhm.
Animation and Pop Century,
Oh, that's true.
and the line, the entry to the Skyliner is closer to Pop Century, so the line naturally goes into Pop Century. So if you're
Mhm.
staying at Art of Animation, you actually got to go all the way across the bridge
Right.
to get there. So we got there at 6:05 on each of the 2 days.
Okay.
The first day, they opened up at 6:55, and we were able to board by 6:57. And it was pretty much about the same. I think they opened a few minutes earlier
Mm-hmm.
when the day we went to Epcot. So that's kind of how that works. And
Now, would you prefer Skyliner to buses for those
Yes.
two parks specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Hands down. Skyliner was one of the, other than the attractions, was
Mhm.
one of the highlights of the trips.
Okay.
Because-
well, a Skyliner's like a ride in itself.
Yeah. In some cases, a little bit too thrilling of a ride. We
Come on, Tyler. Don't embarrass yourself.
So, one of my concerns was also they're not air conditioned. It's
Oh.
just they have like vents
Little
above.
vent windows. They're like ski lifts. Exactly
Yeah.
like ski lifts.
They're like ski lifts,
Mhm.
and so it does stay pretty cool as long as you keep moving.
Okay.
If you are not moving, it could get warm pretty quick. But one of the things that can happen whenever you are on a moving deal like this
Mhm.
in humidity
Mhm.
with air is you might have a little bit of some hair issues going on
Love that.
there. And so this was coming back from studios, I think, that day.
Are you sure you're not on Tower of Terror here?
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. It just sucked her hair straight up
How
in
funny.
there. Sorry, honey. But, and so it stays pretty cool. Now, granted, the 2 days that we were there were not bad weather at all.
Right.
Low 80s tops. So,
Oh,
I mean,
beautiful.
it
Yeah.
was great. It was
Mhm.
overcast most of the time. We didn't have any rain. The humidity wasn't even that bad either. So there weren't a whole lot of issues with that. What I was curious about, though, was the issue at Pop Century of Art of Animation. They don't actually run buses.
Oh, okay.
If you are staying there, Epcot and studios don't have buses that run. If you go out to the bus line, they have a little placard out that says use the Skyliner.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So don't even try it because it won't run.
Mhm.
So I thought, well, what if they're not running?
The
What
Skyliner?
if a storm
Oh.
comes about?
Mhm.
We got to find that out the first day.
Mm.
We went and we had finished riding all the rides, and it was right about 9 o'clock. So we're heading back to the resort, and the wind's really whipping it, and we start seeing lightning, and there's some rain.
Okay.
We get there, and the Skyliner is shut down.
I'd hope so.
So we have to go to the buses. We waited over half an hour just for a bus to show up
Mhm.
for Pop Century.
And
The-
what park were you leaving?
It's just studios.
Studios.
Here's how bad it was. The next day, we left Magic Kingdom, and we were able to wait for a bus, get on the bus, and go all the way from Magic Kingdom to Pop Century. Was a very long distance in Walt Disney World.
Mhm.
Magic Kingdom is about as far away from Pop Century as you can get, even further than the All-Star resorts.
Yep.
We were able to make it back to our resort in less time than it took for a bus to show up to pick us up.
That's impressive.
So, so we're sitting there, we're griping about this a little bit, that we can't use the Skyliner. We're talking to some people who were in line for Rise of the Resistance. You know what we did not know happened that night?
Oh,
There was a tornado warning in Orlando. We were under a legitimate tornado warning
How
for
dare them
Orange
close the
County,
Skyliner?
Florida. Like, seriously, they're sitting there talking to us. They said, Rise of the Resistance is having to shut down because of a tornado warning.
Oh.
And they were in line for it, so my heart goes out to them.
You should have
And
told them, oh, we're from Texas. We do this
Yeah.
every day.
so, so they tell us this, and they say, we get off the ride, and nothing else was shut down. I said, yeah, nothing else was shut down. We were on Tower of Terror during a tornado warning. Like, can you think of a worse ride to probably be on than that?
Test track, maybe?
Test Track Astro Orbiter, something up really high where you spin. But we never even knew there were no sirens that go off in Disney World. I don't know if they have sirens that go off.
Probably not. I mean, Disney doesn't even sell gum. Like, that's...
And so at the time, I'm thinking, okay, we weren't really under a tornado warning.
Yeah.
These people from Tennessee don't know what a tornado warning is. We get home and we turn on the news and they're like, all right, we're following up from the now expired tornado warning. And we really were under a tornado warning. And so we're drenched because we're having to walk in the rain and all this stuff. And we get close to our resort room and we overhear a woman, or she overhears us. I don't remember. You know how your memory goes when you're at Disney World.
Mm-hmm.
She was the last person off of the Skyliner before they shut it down.
Oh.
And she said that it was terrifying because she's up there and the wind, when we were on there, any amount of wind would rock it pretty good.
Oh, no.
And she was rocking and she goes, there's lightning everywhere. And then I get an alert on my phone that there's a tornado warning. So she was scared to death.
Oh, that poor woman.
And so I was at that point, we were like, okay, we should quit complaining. We had to ride the bus. We didn't have this
I'm sure
issue.
she got a fast pass or two out of that.
If she knew that she could go to the concierge and complain about it,
And
I bet
tell
she
them how
would have.
scary it was.
And so they, if there is bad weather, which really amounts to any amount of wind at all, they will shut down the Skyliner. And so if you're wondering what happens, they will resume buses for those two parks when that happens. It's even though they announce it that there are no buses, they will send a bus. You just may have to wait a lot longer. Because I could make, on the Skyliner from Studios, I could make it back to the resort, put some things down, change clothes, grab some stuff, and get back into Studios in less than 50 minutes.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So it is really nice, especially at Studios, being able to go back to your resort and get back into the park in less than 50 minutes.
Yes.
Is very nice. If you've ever parked hop or tried to go back to your resort before using a bus, you might wait that long just for the bus to show up. So the Skyliner, I highly recommend it.
You get some pretty cool views from the Skyliner too, right?
Yeah, well, some.
Yeah.
When you're going between the Caribbean Beach and Studios, you go over one of these like wildlife protective areas.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
And they try to say, oh, Disney loved animals, Disney loved this, so let's go ahead. And you look down, it's just grass, except for the concrete that's directly underneath you for the Skyliner. So you can't see anything. But, when we were going to Epcot, we were like, hey, there's Tower of Terror. Where are we going and how high are we? And occasionally, we had no problems the first day. The second day, multiple times, we came to a standstill on the Skyliner.
Oh, that's scary.
And like one time was about for 10 to 15 minutes. And I was beginning to wonder, are we going to be evacuated off of this? Because I've seen that happen mostly when they first opened it. On the way back that night, Gunnar said, at least we didn't get stuck. And like right after he said it, we almost came to a dead stop. And like me in Brooklyn, Candace, I don't think heard him because she was talking to someone else about the fireworks. But we just looked, glare at him like, you jinx us. Take your lightsaber away from you. So that's the Skyliner. That's my kind of review over the Skyliner.
Okay.
And so if you like Studios or Epcot at all and you want to be able to go, I would say stay at Pop Century. If you want a little bit nicer room, do Art of Animation, but do know there's a fairly significant increase in price from Pop Century to Art of Animation, despite them being right next door to each other and both being value resorts. There's a pretty big difference there.
Yeah.
The other nice thing about the Skyliner is if you want to do the Ratatouille ride at Epcot, that is the way to go. Your Skyliner puts you out right in the France Pavilion. Like you go through the turnstiles and then up to a bridge where they scanned our magic bands to make sure we were staying at a resort to get in early. And you just walk around and you're in France.
That goes back to rope dropping that we talk about quite frequently. You want to try and rope drop Ratatouille. It's the new Epcot ride. And
It's cute.
so if it puts you out right there, you don't have far to walk.
And if you go anywhere else, you get put out in the front of Future World, over by the big spaceship Earth, the big golf ball, and you would have to walk all the way through Canada and the UK before you even get to France, and that's after you've exited Future World, which there were so many.
Construction World. That's,
They opened up
sounds a
one of the
little bit better.
paths right after we left. One of the paths to get the test track got opened up, but there's a lot of construction right now due to Moana and just the undergoing refurbishments at Epcot. But I think my recommendation would almost be get up really early, park at Art of Animation or Pop Century for the day, and hop on the Skyliner, because you don't have to be staying at one of those resorts to ride. No one scans you at all to get on the Skyliner.
I didn't know that.
No, you walk.
So if you're not staying at Arts of Animation or Pop Century, you say drive from your resort or Airbnb, wherever you're staying, and park there and hop on Skyliner.
Now, I don't know how they would handle parking. If you're staying at another resort, your parking is already included if you have driven to Florida or if you have gotten a rental car. Once you go through that initial security, they take down your car description, all that stuff, and they add the parking to your bill.
Right.
And that gives you parking anywhere. Any resort. Disney Springs is always free, but also any of the parks.
Okay.
And when you do that, you just tell them what resort you're in. They'll scan a magic band and let you in without having to pay. So I would just say if you've got the rental car and you're staying at a resort, definitely go there. Otherwise, I don't know if they would tow your car or if you would say, hey, I need to pay for parking. I don't know how that would work for one day.
I don't know.
But I'd say it's definitely something to worth consider.
Well, we're going to try Skyliner next time.
All right, so that is it for the Skyliner video. We got, again, check out all of our other videos with this trip, and we will tell all in all those.